Welcome back to the channel. We're going to get a bunch of stuff finished up on this. One of the big things is just pretty much get everything suspension wise welded out on the top side. So we're gonna pull the hood off and get the engine bay all welded up for the coilover towers and crossbar and whatnot, and then we can start moving on from there. All right, so we're going to get all this heavy tacked for this crossbar and then weld all this in. The frame side is already all welded. I can get a little bit on the backside from the engine bay, so I'm going to, but otherwise it's all welded, so I don't have to worry about that. But we can get all this welded out, and then there's quite a bit of fab to do in here still, just a whole bunch of little things, but we're going to start with this and get it knocked out. Alright, we got all the top sides welded on the coilover towers up top. So we are going to let it cool a little bit, and then we're going to pull this so we can weld the undersides. Alright, we got the crossbar pulled, welded out, and back in. So now we are going to start putting some of the components into the engine bay. The radiator is what we'll start with, and then we need to get all the power steering and whatnot set so we can work on that system. Alright, so we threw the radiator in and the transcooler or power steering cooler, but this fan, as you can see, it's how thick it is. It has about an inch of clearance. Problem is, this fan is about a little bit thinner here, but the motor's a lot bigger. So if we take a measurement, this one is about 3.5 inches. And this one is about 2.5 inches overall. So we have an inch bigger on the motor. This fan worked okay with the 22RE or 22R. This motor is gonna get a lot warmer. So we want to run this Spall fan, which is a lot better brand of fan than this unknown brand. So we're going to have to see if we can get either move the radiator, which is a little bit more work than it looks because it's against the frame here. Or we're gonna have to modify the shroud and pull it closer in to the radiator and see if we can get that fan to clear. Hopefully we can, because we have no room to move this back. We have a little bit of gap between the head and the firewall, but the exhaust has to fit back there. We could do dual exhaust back, but with how big the transfer case is underneath the belly, there's no room on the passenger side to have any exhaust at all. So we gotta go over to the driver's side and bring the exhaust back, clearing the upper wing. It's gonna be all really tight no matter which way we do it. So we just gotta figure out how to get that fan to clear, and then once the fan clears, we can start getting the power steering system figured out. Alright, as you can see, the fan is right now touching the pulley, and it's not even close to fitting. Obviously we need clearance for motor movement and whatnot, and those bolts are actually a little bit longer than the pulley, which is where the motor is going to end up sitting. But it looks like, since we have about 1/2 inch of clearance here, maybe 3/4, looks like we can modify the shroud, suck it closer in, and if we do that, we should be able to get clearance we need. Alright, so if the fan were to mount completely flush, we have plenty of space. Obviously we want it to have that shroud just to pull a little bit better. So we'll have a little bit of gap, but either way we should have quite a bit of space doing that. So to modify it, it's going to be a decent amount of work, not too hard, but we're going to have to cut all the way along, all around the edge, leave a little bit of lip there so that the bolts can clear on the radiator, and then we're going to have to cut these tabs off and move the tabs. Alright, to start we're going to cut these tabs off real quick, and then we'll mark all the way around exactly where we want to cut and start. Alright, so we're going to cut it along that line, which leaves us just that little bit of lip, but gives us about a 1/2 inch more clearance. Alright, we gotta cut down, this much is off of it. So it's quite a bit more slim, and these will pretty much just go right back where they were. We'll tack them in and then bend it over and weld it out. Alright, we decided to just cut the tab short instead of bending them over. Either way, should work fine. Let's go see if this thing fits. Looks like it fits fine, and a lot closer to the radiator. Alright, so we're going to mount the fan real quick to this, get it all tightened down, and then see if we can fit it in there. And now the new small fan fits with about a 1/2 inch of clearance. So that should work perfectly. We don't have to modify the other mounts, and we don't have to move the power steering cooler. So that's a plus. So let's get the overflow mounted up real quick, and that will complete the mounting of the cooling system. Alright, so we have this little overflow from a Honda. We're going to try to mount it right next to the radiator here. But we have the old power steering mount that we have to cut out first because it's welded to the radiator support. So cut that out real quick, and then we can figure out how to mount that. Alright, so it is mounted in there. I actually just used 2 factory holes. Kind of interesting, but it probably is going to have to raise up a little bit. I'm going to get everything else figured out in the engine bay, and then Once we get the hood and everything on and all the engine bay full out, then I'll see if I need to raise it up at all, and how much I can raise it up. All right, we got the old engine bay welded out and the radiator all fit in and fan cleared. Thanks for watching.